If you think the food industry is damaging and deceitful, then there's something which makes those worries look absolutely tiny in comparison. We are here to take down or revolutionize the which is destroying the health of America's children. But there's one overlooked missing piece of the puzzle, which if MAHA fails to address, then they're going to fail in their aims of rolling back the chronic disease epidemic.
And for this scandals go on right under our noses, that it's really worrying, and this is why it's vital to act now.
Sam and Kit Bowen-Russell, who really took skincare into their own hands.
Twin brothers from the UK who are taking the skincare industry by storm.
Sam is a nuclear astrophysicist, and Kit is a geophysicist and author.
A Notre Dame grad and his twin brother are looking to revolutionize skin health.
The two launched a 2-year intensive research study.
Two very smart guys who knew all about bad skin at a very early age.
That woman at the end was our mum, and really she's the face which launched 1,000 questions for us.
Welcome to the podcast from Where Are We, Kit?
We're in Washington, D.C., which is, I used to say London was the capital of the world, but now I would say Washington, D.C. is the capital of the free world especially. Would you say that's wrong, given what's happened to London and the UK?
Traitorous. I'll be saying
I know, I still say it. I still firmly believe that London and the UK should be the capital of the world, but at the moment I'd say probably more Washington. Anyway, that's for another podcast.
Can't say that around Americans though. They're going to be too.
Yeah, no, they hate that.
Right.
That's why they kicked us out on July the 4th, isn't it?
Certainly. Right. So let's go. Well, I mean, why are we here, Kit?
Why are we on this planet?
Why are we in Washington?
Oh, sorry. Right. I suddenly thought it was an existential question. Right. We're in Washington, D.C. because we are here to take down or revolutionize the cosmetics industry, which is destroying the health of America's children.
Okay.
And adults. But it's very worrying what it's doing to children.
And how do you know that?
Well, the reason we know that, one of the big reasons, is our world-leading research, which for the first time has linked damaged skin to synthetic chemicals in everyday cosmetics. And that was due to our skin microbiome, skin health measuring mechanism, which we discovered the first ever skin health measuring mechanism in the whole world.
Yeah. So, and damaged skin has been linked to what?
Damaged skin has been linked to the use of synthetic chemicals in everyday cosmetics.
Yes, but why does damaged skin matter? Most people will say, "Oh, damaged skin doesn't really matter."
Good point. Slightly odd wording of the question, but good point. Well,
how should I have said it?
No, I know what you're saying. Basically, our groundbreaking research also has found that everyone in the Western world has a damaged skin microbiome, up to 84% more damaged than our caveman ancestors.
Okay, but why does that matter?
Well, why does that matter? Because for the first time, we've linked this to the huge chronic disease epidemic and skin problems, which are exploding throughout the world. So 1.9 billion people across the world, I think it is now, probably more now, but they have skin problems. And in the Western world, we've been hit especially hard with this part of the chronic disease epidemic. There's a skin allergy epidemic raging across the Western world. And we'll probably go into the personal story of how we found out that big scandal later, Sam.
Yeah, we can do. I think that would be good to go into. Just wanted to get
to rewind. Our groundbreaking research was featured in the Washington Post. And then as a result of that, the bigwigs in Washington invited us to speak at the MAHA National Conference in front of Congress people, top staffers, and top health policymakers in the US.
Right. Okay. So I think the main thing is, the movement, the reason that we're talking to people in Washington, congressmen, talking at conferences, this movement, MAHA, which I want to go through today, and why we're here. So how do we fit into MAHA? What are MAHA's aims?
Well, MAHA's one aim is to roll back the chronic disease epidemic. That seems to be its primary aim. And again, this has been our main aim for years and years and years. We started off, we want to roll back the skin allergy epidemic, or the skin problem epidemic, which is raging across the Western world and hitting places like the UK and the US especially hard. But that's part of the wider chronic disease epidemic. So we want to roll these back. And we believe that the skin, through our research, is a crucial, overlooked and neglected factor which isn't being talked about enough, and synthetic chemicals in everyday cosmetics.
Right. Okay. So MAHA's aim is to solve the chronic disease epidemic, and we'll go into the stats and stuff later. But so I really want to pin you down this kid. So MAHA's aim is to solve the chronic disease epidemic. But what do two physicists, a nuclear astrophysicist and a geophysicist, who are world leaders in the skin microbiome, what do they have to do with the chronic disease epidemic and MAHA?
That's a good point. So what are you? You're a nuclear astrophysicist, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a planetary geophysicist, which sounds cool. But your full title was something like nuclear astrophysics with...
Well, it's physics with nuclear astrophysics.
Okay, cool, right. So a nuclear astrophysicist and a planetary geophysicist. How did we get into the realm of skin microbiome science? How did we become world leaders in the skin microbiome and make it to the heart of health policy in the whole of the USA, talking to some of the top people in Congress or government? That's a good question. I think, well, I don't know how far back you want me to go, Sam, but it all started with our mum, didn't it?
Yeah, but we'll come into that, and you're right, we'll come on to that. I just want to pin down quickly just the reasons people say, what you research the skin, so what are you saying to MAHA? Why were we invited to talk at the National Healthy America Conference, and what are we doing in Congress? Why is what we're saying so important for MAHA?
Oh, sorry, I see what you're saying. Okay. So we are saying to MAHA, if you think the food industry is damaging and deceitful, then there's something which makes those worries look absolutely tiny in comparison. And I don't know, do you want me to reveal that now?
We'll come on to reveal it later.
So we're saying that there's one overlooked missing piece of the puzzle, which if MAHA fails to address, then they're going to fail in their aims of rolling back the chronic disease epidemic. And all of their amazing work which they're doing with additives, chemical additives, toxic chemical additives in foods, and changing people's diet and getting a healthier gut microbiome, all of that amazing work could be undone by this overlooked factor which they're not addressing at the moment.
Right. So we'll come on to the cause. So the overlooked factor, something to do with what we're talking about. In terms of the research that you were invited, that was published in the Washington Post. So it's published research, one of your and ours, many papers. What was that research published on? Why was it so monumental?
Well, this research was done with a couple of really top Romanian medical centers. And for the first time, it showed a link between damaged skin, which everyone has in the Western world, and the chronic disease epidemic. So it's saying that damaged skin, which again everyone has, could be a major contributor to this massive increase in chronic diseases all over the Western world. So before, people barely even thought that the skin microbiome was involved in skin health, let alone the wider chronic disease epidemic. So in this paper, we're showing that if you have damaged skin, it could be a major contributor to things like asthma, food allergies, cardiovascular diseases, and even things which affect the brain, like Parkinson's disease. That was the biggest breakthrough, because many people think of the skin as totally separate from the rest of the body. Not only do they think it as separate, they think it's this inanimate sheet which just stretches over the bones and muscles. But the reality is, number one, it's a thriving ecosystem home to billions of microbes, which are our defenders, as you said before. So they protect us. So you need to keep that ecosystem healthy, otherwise our health goes down the pan. Number two, the fact that the skin is absolutely crucial for whole body health. So if you have damaged skin, this allows things like toxic chemicals into the bloodstream, which circulate your body, and they can harm the organs like the heart, the lungs, these things which people thought, and the brain. These are things which people thought were totally unrelated and distant from the skin. And if you had damaged skin, it wouldn't affect these things at all. So, to sum up, our research shows that damaged skin could be a major contributor to the chronic disease epidemic in the Western world.
Yeah, and well, to us and the physics part of it, why does that make so much sense? I mean, to me, it makes so much sense that even forgetting understanding the skin microbiome and ecosystems like that, that your skin plays a role in whole body health.
Yeah. So, well, that's one big paradigm shift, which no one talks about at the moment, which needs to happen.
But in terms of this making sense to me anyway, and all of the research we do, it makes sense because your body works as a whole. It's not separate pieces. It's not like the skin's separate to your gut or your brain or whatever. It's all connected. And so when it's all connected, there was different parts, but they all work to the whole body health solution. And so if one of them's off, then it can take the whole body out of shape.
Exactly. And that comes back to your question about why two physicists are involved in skin microbiome health, doesn't it? Because as we know from, well, you know more than me actually, Sam, because you're bigger on this, but from the line of nonlinear physics, you know that every system, so the body is just one big interconnected complex system. If you change one small part of that system, so for example here the skin, it's going to have a knock-on effect which might be way greater than we ever could have imagined to the rest of the system.
Yeah, which is all in the study of nonlinear physics, which we won't go into now. We might do another podcast on all of that, which I would love to go into the details. And ecosystems are all built on entropy too. So entropy, a big physical physics area, very important. I say very important. That's underwhelming. It's incredibly important. It's what the whole universe is based on. And then, of course, all of the thinking. My areas of quantum physics, a lot of that thinking really helps you understand how the body works. But anyway, we won't go into that this time. So just
say quickly, doesn't just help you understand, it's the most crucial thing for understanding that all, and which is why we're world leaders, and many of these academics who've been studying the skin microbiome for years still don't understand, because they can't take inspiration from areas outside the skin microbiome.
Well, there's that, and most are come from the area of biology and haven't looked into or really delved into physics. The physics side is just crucial to understanding ecosystems and the skin microbiome. So quite apart from me absolutely loving physics and wanting to do it every day of my life, it's actually crucial to understanding the skin microbiome and therefore understanding a solution. So we spoke at Healthy America. You said the title of it, which is really good. If you think the food industry is damaging the deceitful, there's something that makes that look tiny, which we're going to reveal later, as we did in our talk. And we've been speaking to congressmen, their offices, and people involved in health policy. So what's in terms of, let's get back to MAHA. You said that if MAHA doesn't adopt, so it's doing loads of work on the food, but if it doesn't adopt really work on the skin. That's going to be, like you said, about the non-linear systems. It's going to, you can't solve the chronic disease epidemic without the skin. So that's our goal. That's what we're talking about in the talk. So what's the goal, say, in general here in Washington?
Well, the goal in general is for us to become figureheads of MAHA on the skin side. We want to be, the skin twins need to be and will be the rock stars, the figureheads of MAHA, especially on the skin side of things. So we're willing to put our faces to the cause of MAHA because we think it's a perfectly worthy one. And we feel they desperately need figureheads at the moment, because RFK Jr. has done a brilliant job, but they need young figureheads to take their popularity to a whole new audience, maybe of young people or people who wouldn't really be interested in it otherwise.
Yep, so you got that. And to alert them to the facts of this, like I say, new frontier, but everyone's doing really good work on the food side. They've passed laws about dyes and everything, but there's one massive gaping hole in the fight against the chronic disease epidemic. So let's go through what I want to talk about. So this fight of the chronic disease epidemic is that we talk about this all the time, but how did we get involved in it? And there are many parallels with MAHA and what they're saying. So that's why we see all the research and all the things that MAHA are saying as so important for our coming health policies and everyone on the planet's health in general. So how did it start with us, Kit?
That's a good point. Well, as we say, our mum was the face that launched 1,000 questions, to use a slightly altered analogy or quote from Troy. What was the book?
No, well, it was the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yeah, I can't remember which one though, the Iliad or the Odyssey. Anyway, Helen's face was the face that launched 1,000 ships. And so we use the same quote. We say our mum's the face that launched 1,000 questions for us. And it was her face in this case, wasn't it? Because really, when we were teenagers, and I think we were going through a couple of our own skin problems, but we remember our mum, who obviously had a great complexion, obviously really healthy, very attractive woman, had great complexion her whole life. But then suddenly...
And also, just, I mean, our parents are like health mad, weren't they? Health nuts.
Yeah, they were health mad.
I wouldn't go as far as say health nuts because it wasn't like crazy, but yeah, they were really interested in health. So
yeah, they had us on avocado and bean sprout salads from a young age, which were just
horrific,
horrible thing for a kid. Actually, I can't say I like bean sprouts now, but I'm sure you get people like Tim Spector going on about bean sprouts and how good they are for your gut. Yeah.
Okay,
anyway,
so Leon, you were talking about mum's skin problems. So let's go through the story of that, because it's going to be very similar to a lot of people.
Yeah. So our mum suddenly exploded all across her face with these horrible skin problems, like rash type symptoms. So it started out in quite a localized area, just like around her mouth and chin, things like that. And because they didn't shift, she decided, and they were causing her just a lot of not just physical problems, but also psychological problems as well, because she was very self-conscious. She lost confidence. She didn't really want to go and meet people at the same time. I remember that, especially picking us up from school and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say that's an understatement though, but...
sorry, it is an understatement, yeah, but it gets worse is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so at the beginning, obviously, it starts off and you think, it'll clear in a couple of weeks. I'm quite self-conscious about it, but it'll clear. Things like this, it's quite painful, it's sore, it's red. You're self-conscious, you lose confidence and stuff like that. I do remember these things happening to our mum.
So it started off as undiagnosed, and people didn't know what it was.
And just for a checkup, I think at one stage our mum just decided really what she'd do a bit of research about it. And then she started using more natural cosmetics. And then, apart from the problem getting better, it actually spread and the skin problems got worse, didn't they?
Yeah, so she started looking at the normal, use cosmetics for your skin. So problem using normal cosmetics. Then that didn't work, so she thought, oh, I'll use more natural cosmetics, and looked into all of that. So tried everything. Problem was spreading even more, so it's spreading all over her face. So those didn't work. This is a very quick overview. So where did she go next?
So when the supposedly natural cosmetics, so she really tried to clean up the use of cosmetics on her face because she read some things about chemicals being bad for the skin. When that made it worse and the skin problems kept spreading across her face, she then thought, right, okay, now's the time to go and see an expert, in inverted commas again. I'll go to the doctors and specialists who'll be able to help me here. So she went to the doctors and the specialists, and they prescribed her things like creams, ointments, and medicines for her face. And again, we won't go into this because it's for another podcast, but I remember these, again, probably much quicker than the natural cosmetics, just made it spread more rapidly across her face, especially the longer the time she used them. And maybe if she used them for a long period and then came off them, her face problems just exploded.
Yeah. So it all culminated. I remember when they were going on a work trip to Canada, and it was like the biggest work trip of their business, and they'd been building up for 4 years or however long, and then mum was something like, I don't want to go, let's cancel it. She just didn't want to be seen in public with these skin problems. It took her over. She's normally very happy and confident and everything. It just stripped her of all of that. So I'm sure many people listening can feel the similarities with their own problems. So it's like the hidden cost of all these skin things. But so let's go through the 3 stages really quickly, Kit. She used, and which made us realize that we had to take it into our own hands. So she started just using normal cosmetics, and it made her worse. Then she went to natural cosmetics and made it worse. And then she got help from the medical profession, and then they didn't know what was going on, and it still made her worse. So if no one could help her, and these 2 massive industries couldn't help her, we realized at that point, didn't we, that we had to take it into our own hands. And there was something else going on here, because we realized also it's not just our mum, that there was huge amounts of other people that were having problems with no one could diagnose them, no one could help them, and
but we didn't know the scale until we started researching. Anyway, one thing I would say about also going to experts and them letting you down as well is that it's actually quite psychologically disturbing for a while, because it makes you think, well, if the experts who are set up to help people who really are struggling don't have a clue what to do and actually make it worse in many cases, then what the hell is going on? And I think, just to say here, we come from a family of doctors, so we're in no way lambasting doctors unnecessarily or unfairly at all here.
No.
We're just saying that, again, it makes you lose trust in the experts and the people who are set up to help you. And again, you feel alone, you feel isolated, and you feel that you might be the only person in the whole world who's having this. Why is this happening to me? So it can be quite isolating, and it can further impact things like how you feel about yourself and your happiness and your overall quality.
Hugely, yeah. So there's 2 things here. So there's which forced all of our research. So we realized we had to take it into our own hands, right? And then we uncovered a scandal and an epidemic. So what were those 2 things we uncovered? We're getting close to releasing what our talk was all about.
Which we haven't already really. Anyway,
let's start with the epidemic.
Okay, so there were 2 major scandals we uncovered in our research. So again, this has been our lifelong mission to get to the bottom of this. What was hurting our mum? So the first thing we discovered was evidence that there was a skin allergy epidemic, or a skin problem epidemic, raging across the Western world. So actually, in the whole world, 1.9 billion people have skin problems, which is a huge number.
Okay, and what's happened? Has it always been around recently? What's happening to those?
Yeah, so this has just exploded since the start of the cosmetics industry. In the last 100 years, there's been a 500% increase
Okay.
in skin problems in the UK. 500%. And the most worrying thing is that in the Western world, skin problems are actually, the rate of deterioration of skin problems is actually getting worse. It's actually speeding up.
So no, that's amazing. That's incredible, really. At the same time, our healthcare system, is it good? What's happening to our healthcare system at exactly the same time as this?
The question is really, okay, so we have some of the most advanced healthcare systems ever in human history, possibly the most.
It's the most advanced.
Yeah,
healthcare system.
And we're spending the most money ever on our health. So, for example, in the USA, they spend 90% of their healthcare spending is on chronic disease, and that's nearly $4 trillion every year now. And similar, not as crazy, but huge numbers in the UK. I think 700 billion is spent in the EU alone every year on chronic diseases, on possibly skin problems. I can't remember that fact. The question is, why, if we have the most advanced healthcare systems ever, and we're spending all this money, and we're supposedly the most advanced with modern medicine, modern drugs, why do we have this huge explosion in skin problems across the Western world?
Certainly. So at the same time as this, the healthcare industry and systems just getting better and better, chronic disease is shooting up too. So it seems a complete paradox, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
So this is the reason we separate when we talk about doctors, isn't it? So our family of doctors is they're amazing at acute diseases. So all these things like infections, they're just eradicated. So we don't, like, when, I don't know, only a few hundred years, or a couple of hundred years ago, people just die of infections, and they couldn't be solved. Now we've solved them. So all doctors are set up for these, and amazing for acute diseases. But for chronic disease, it seems that they don't have an answer and an understanding of it, do they? So this is why these chronic diseases are shooting up. When we talk about chronic disease, and it includes all the skin problems like eczema.
Yeah.
So, what's a scandal that we uncovered?
Yeah, so we have this problem in the Western world, and again, it is a Western world problem predominantly because the rates of skin problems are huge in the Western world. And again, as you say, Sam, so one thing to say before we go on to the other scandal was that also through our research, we found out that everyone in the Western world has damaged skin.
How did you find out?
And we found it out because we looked at the health of the skin of uncontacted tribes people. So people who live essentially the same life as our caveman ancestors would have, because they've been uncontacted until now. So they lived exactly like our caveman ancestors would. And they had the healthiest skin and guts ever recorded. And our skin actually, and we'll go into how we know this, but our skin is up to 84% more damaged than our caveman ancestors using these isolated tribes people.
Yeah, we don't need to go into how, just, so what was the research that made you able to do that?
Well, for the first time ever, we discovered the first mechanism. We discovered, created, and improved the first mechanism for measuring the health of skin using, and this is a word which is used in big ecosystems, but it was using biodiversity, and we won't go into that now. But it gave us a way of measuring on a sliding scale the health of skin.
Okay, so then you could use that to find out, right, what's happening to our skin now, and you found that there was a massive decrease in the health of our skin now compared to our ancestors, right?
Yeah, so our ancestors, or these isolated tribes people who are used as the equivalent of our ancestors, they have the healthiest skin microbiomes ever recorded. And their skin microbiome health is up here, ours is down here, even the most healthy of Westerns. And hold on, Sam, hold on. And these people, they also had none of these skin problems which we see in huge numbers today. So things like eczema and acne, they're known as modern skin diseases because our ancestors didn't have any of them. So they had the highest skin microbiome health ever, and they didn't have any of these diseases.
Okay, so it sounds very easy us talking about it now and piecing it all together, but it's we've had to do this like a jigsaw puzzle from scratch. So we're starting to find the problems. We found the problem. We're starting to look into what the cause is in terms of the skin microbiome damage. And so now what could be causing the destruction of the skin microbiome? And we call it, and other people have called it in the gut, the mass extinction on the skin microbiome. This catastrophic loss on the skin microbiome. What is causing it? What could be causing it?
Well, one of the big things in our research, we noticed that since the start of the cosmetics industry, these skin problems had just gone through the roof. So again, there's loads of factors which go into it, but one of the biggest from our research we found was synthetic chemicals in everyday cosmetics, which we put on our body in huge amounts. And this seems to be one of the biggest factors, because for what I just said, we put these chemicals in huge amounts on our skin daily. We're always in contact with them. And some of the chemicals in modern cosmetics are incredibly toxic and harmful for our health. And they can really damage the skin microbiome.
Yeah, so that was in a paper and a study by you and us, wasn't it?
Yeah, so another groundbreaking paper from us. We published the first evidence ever that synthetic chemicals in modern cosmetics could be linked to the skin allergy epidemic. So we showed that a face wash with lots of synthetic chemicals in it can damage the skin and maintains the damaged Western skin microbiome.
Okay. So, again, we're getting to the root and the heart of the problem.
Yeah,
What's important?
Exactly. But as we researched more, we realized that it wasn't just old school chemical-laden products in the skincare industry. Actually, what had become known now as the natural skincare industry was just as culpable for these problems as the old style industry. So we realized that there's a wild west going on within the skincare industry. So the cosmetics industry, again, they've sent out some top players in the cosmetics industry for us exposing these things. They sent out cease and desist letters to us. So we must be onto something, right, if they do that. So what we found was that you can label a product, a cosmetic product, natural, and it can contain over 80% synthetic chemicals of the ingredients. So what they did was, many of them, they just used the same chemically.
It could potentially contain 100%.
It could if it wanted, yeah.
No
but again, a lot of them have water in, so they don't.
I'm just saying that you could get a moisture oil-based one that has 100%. So it's not what you're saying is there's no legal definition about natural for cosmetics.
Yeah. So the cosmetics industry, especially in America, but all over, including Europe, is a wild west where you can put claims on your bottle like natural or organic, and actually you can have a ton of synthetic harmful chemicals in it, which again is misleading the consumer, so they think they're putting on natural products, and could actually be one of the main reasons for this skin allergy epidemic in the Western world. So
that's crazy too, because if you think about how businesses are set up too, they're there to provide a service that helps the person who buys it, and in return the person who buys it, or they buy it, so they give them money in return, and it's a voluntary exchange which is useful for both parties, and that's how capitalism is set up. But for this to be happening, for the very products that people are buying for their skin to be actually filled with chemicals and damaging the skin. That goes completely against the whole values and ethos of proper capitalism and proper business, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I think that's a really good point because, again, as we say from our research, and again, we need to say that we don't know fully whether it's cock-up or conspiracy, but definitely the cosmetics industry seems to be creating products to cover up the damage which their other products have already done to your skin. So it's like putting a plaster or a band-aid on a problem. It just covers it up. It doesn't really help it.
Yeah, and I think because there's a debate about, yeah, like you said, cock-up or conspiracy, which I think people, one, don't know, but I think the part that they are usually culpable is, which is crazy again to me, and the deceit in the natural cosmetics for calling something natural, putting labeling of flowers and making it just calling the product around one ingredient, like, I don't know, jojoba oil. I just use that one, but I don't know, carrot juice or whatever it is, calling the product that and marketing it all around this natural style to make the consumer think it's natural, and for it could be any amount completely unnatural. But in our studies, we found, like you said, up to 80% unnatural. For that to be, the companies know that it's not natural. They're just putting the labeling on it. If you had that in food, if you said in food natural, and then you put all of those ingredients in it, people would be in uproar. The point is, ultra processed food isn't sold as natural. People know it's ultra processed food, but they didn't know what was happening to their sides and to their health. But cosmetics are sold as natural, and they're not natural in the slightest, and they contain huge amounts of damaging chemicals.
Yeah, and I think there's two things there. Number one, I would ask you, okay, so why is it just, are there more regulations in the food industry which are meaning that you can't label your product as natural when it's not, or organic?
Yeah, so there are regulations. So in food, it has regulations about the words natural and organic, things like that. But in cosmetics, there are no regulations. So it brings us full circle back to part of our main campaign here in DC is to start alerting people to this and regulating the use of things like words like natural. So what was I saying? Sorry. I like to end it because we'll end the podcast very soon. I always like to end it by telling people what if we give them a cosmetics bottle, and they when to tell them about how damaging it is, and say, right, so if you saw that on the back of a food packet, would you eat it? And every single person, no one's ever said, oh yeah, they would say, no, I'm never going near that. I would hate that. Would be terrible to put on the insult. So they understand the health of what they're eating, but not what they're putting on the skin. So they're fine putting it on the skin, but not eating it.
Yes, I think
eye-opening.
But that also is because people don't understand that the skin is so important for whole body health, and also it's quite a delicate, lush ecosystem. So people know about the gut. They know that it's important not to eat things which are chemicals and are going to be really bad for you. But the skin, that knowledge still isn't there with the general person, is it?
Exactly. So I think that rounds it off well. Okay, is there anything you want to say to sum it up?
I would just say that I think things like toxic chemicals in everyday cosmetics is especially worrying because we have people like teenage girls at the moment, not just teenage girls, but teenagers, young people at the moment, putting on these chemicals to their bodies in huge worrying amounts. And especially when you're growing up and going through puberty, some of these chemicals have been linked with things like hormone disruption. So it could potentially play havoc with your hormones during puberty, which really isn't a good idea. And also it could affect things like your development, your physical and mental development when you're growing up as well. So this is why we say it's a scary thought for America's children and the whole world's children. But that's why I think we're focusing a lot on children, because this issue could affect them a little bit more than adults who may be physically and mentally a bit more stable than children and teenagers.
Hugely. And I think the scandal that we've uncovered is so, is so important for people to know, for their health, and for like you're saying, for young children who are growing to understand that, because like we said, bringing it full circle as to why we're here in Washington and speaking, and what we propose to MAHA so it can achieve its aims of solving the chronic disease epidemic, is that the skin not only could be the missing piece of the puzzle to solve this chronic disease epidemic, but also the main source of chemicals, if you're just talking about chemicals, doesn't seem to be from food. It seems to be putting onto your skin. If you think about women have 12 to 19 daily products put on their skin. So the main chemical load is coming from cosmetics.
Exactly. Instead of things we eat. So we're actually seeing the most amount of toxic chemicals being applied to our skin. So that's why also it could be just as important, if not way more important, for the MAHA movement to take this into account. Now, I think that's why we're here, really. We're here to say, okay, we love what you're doing, but there's one neglected, overlooked, missing piece of the puzzle which you've missed, which could really hamper and could really hamstring your movement if you're not careful and you don't take it into account.
Yeah, so that's the warning, and to help them with that. And I think to end it there, Kit, we're going to end it there.
Yeah, we'll end it there.
For me, this scandal that's happening right under our noses, everyone's been alerted to the food, and consumers are really starting to realise, and that's what's caused things like all these top companies to take dyes out as a start, and there's going to be others coming soon. But this scandal that's happening in the cosmetics industry, no one really is even talking about it, and for this scandals go on right under our noses, that it's really worrying, and this is why it's vital to act now.
Exactly.
I thank you for coming on as my podcaster.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Next week, I want to go into each one of those separate parts. So we've told the whole story, and we're going to go into each separate part.
Yeah, we'll go into each component of that in more detail. Because there's a lot there. But there's a lot to unpack, as people seem to say nowadays.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to unpack in the cosmetics boxes, tubes.